What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we are doing the best games of 2024. This has been a really, really good year, and we're both going to have different lists, I think.
Yeah, the year went by super quickly.
It always goes by quickly. The older you get, the time just goes like, woof, it's just gone. Okay, so let's just jump into it. And in my number 10, we have Windmill Valley. In Windmill Valley, you take on the role of tulip farmers, competing to build windmills, find new tulips for your farms, hiring help to gain advantage on the competition, and spinning cogs over and over again until the game ends, and your final cog form is far superior to everyone else's cog. No, the big thing that makes this game is definitely those cogs. You have these two little action cogs, and you kind of spin them, and you can do like the primary action and the secondary action. But the cool thing is that you can like upgrade it as the game progresses. So your cog becomes different from other players' cog, which becomes different from that player's cog. I like that when games introduce a little variability that builds up over time. It feels empowering. It feels like I have more agency over the game rather than just like, I'm the zombie faction. Oh, I'm the bird faction. I do this. You know what I mean? Like it builds up.
It's an interesting way to make the game a different experience to play the same game every single time.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like the same.
And it's not just different player powers.
Yeah, and it's really important too because this game is comprised of what sometimes feels like a lot of little mini games, but for whatever reason they seem to fit together very cohesively, and it's a really good play experience. And there's some pretty decent interaction. Like I like when you put out your windmills and you sort of build this network as you go along, and you can use other people's networks, which provides them a bonus, but at the same time, of course, gives you bonuses. And this game is all about comboing and chaining and just trying to do a bunch of actions all at once. Like it's one of those games where every turn you feel very fulfilled. Everything you're doing, you feel fulfilled. You'd actually really like this.
Then what happened with playing it?
I've been playing on Tabletop Simulator, and I haven't been able to like get a copy. I think it's just sold out. I haven't been able to find it.
For context for people watching, I refuse to play any video games. I'm not a mobile.
It's not a video game. It's a board game on the computer.
I think I love board games for the escape of
Getting
the online world. Exactly.
Yeah, it's true. We're in front of our screens most of the day.
Yeah, I try to when we're playing, put my phone away and everything, so I don't want to be playing games in front of a screen.
Sometimes you just want to get away from your screen and be a tulip farmer. And that's why my number 10 is Windmill Valley. It's a great game. Check it out.
The online version, not the 3D
Hopefully
one.
the real version at some point. Publishers, contact me. Give me game.
And in my number 10 place, we have Unconscious Mind.
In Unconscious Mind, players formulate new therapeutic techniques to treat patients, establish their practice, share insights with peers, publish theories, and do their best to become Freud's most distinguished contemporary. What
I love about this game, and I mean, we all already know, I love games with different types of themes, and I like when people are creative, right? And a lot of themes in board games have been done 100 times. I never thought psychology would be an interesting or good topic to make a board game about, but I thought this was really well done. I like on the action selection board, different players can pick the same action, but you have to choose the number of ink bottle. So it
depends on where you go. Like you can take your action dialogue thing, the little token that you get, and you place it down,
speech bubble,
and you have to point it at a different action than you did previously, but multiple people can point at the same action. But what's cool is that you have this like extra layer of action selection where you're also determining how many ink bottles you're going to get for the turn.
And then there's this area as well where you pick, I want to call them kind of like tools, where you can slide them onto your board, and it makes your actions on your board stronger too. And I think the whole idea about doing research and publishing and how someone else can build off your research is all really cool.
Yeah, and the way that the game sort of incorporates a sort of resource mitigation is really interesting. It's really intuitive, and it's just like this really interesting puzzle that you have to do, because you have this like circle where the resources kind of slide down, and like you can take actions to move the resources to the left or to the right, or move some down and move some up. It's another one of those layers that you have to think about. It's like you're sort of assaulted in this game by a variety of different puzzles that you have to work your way through.
Very aggressive.
I'm an aggressive
vocabulary.
person.
But it's just such a cool theme, and it's executed so well. And I think that's kind of a recurring theme for me is why I love games. Is I love stuff that's new and unique, but also done really well.
Yep.
And this game doesn't feel like there's too many extra bits that kind of are so disjointed. It feels like there's one big story, there's one big purpose to you being a psychologist, therapist, whatever you want to call it, and everything kind of flows in that as well.
And at number 9, we have River of Gold. In River of Gold, players use their boat to travel down the river, performing various actions, such as developing new ports, markets, and various other buildings, as well as doing their best to grow their wealth and visit nobility, all in an effort to get as many points as possible. Unfortunately, this is another game that Kim hasn't played, but I do actually like this game too. I love it.
That's why I love Mike so much. You know, he just loves to play games that I had never played and tell me about how much I would love them.
Yeah, but I got to get a ton of games played for my tier list video, so I was just hitting online and just like begging people to play with me. And this is one of the games I played repeatedly because I just really enjoyed it. There's so many few games that I would describe as like mellow and chill and in a non-condescending manner. Like when I play this game, it just feels like really laid back, even though it is a competition. Like I love to play it at 2 players, and you are directly competing with someone, but at the same time, it just doesn't feel particularly intense. And I like that. You sort of like, you tap your boat and you travel down the river and you buy buildings to put down on the river that gives you various abilities and bonuses, and you attract nobles, and those nobles also give you little powers. And I like the fact that like, I'm really big fan of when a game incorporates interactions where both sides of the party, both sides of the individuals interacting get to walk away feeling they both won out on the deal. Because when you purchase your own building, you get to put it on the river, and a person can come down and he can use that building. But when he does, it provides him, of course, with the resources that he needs, but it also provides you with victory points or whatever it is on the opposite side that you also get to benefit from.
Cooperative.
Yeah, it's cool. I like those like I wouldn't call it cooperative, but like semi-cooperative, where it just incentivizes you to pay attention to what other people are doing and to the board beyond just like putting your nose down and kind of solving your own puzzle.
I'm a little surprised that you said it was a laid back game and that you enjoyed it, because most of the time when games are a little bit laid back, he finds them boring.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a very fine line to have a game that's not too rushed, not too intense, but also enjoyable in that kind of. To me, that feels more like a coffee table, relaxed night, kind of date night kind of game.
Yeah, it is.
Versus, like intense game day.
Yeah, you can make it competitive. Like, I not to brag or anything, my win percentage is like 80% on Board Game Arena. I'm saying, challenge me, I'll beat you. But it is a very laid back game, and I really like it.
Maybe it's laid back because he's so good at it, so he keeps winning, and so he's not stressed about it at all. And in my number 9 spot, we have Harrow County.
In this asymmetric combat game, players either try to rescue the townsfolk of Harrow County or try to destroy the county as the family, activating mason jars to provide them actions and engaging in combat using the game's built-in dice tower, all in an effort to best their opponent. We actually just played this game. It's like sitting in front of us. We played a few times already, but we figured we'd play one more before we made the list.
What can I say? I'm undefeated in the game. It definitely helps in this position.
Yeah, that's true. It does help to not lose, but it is a really good game. So I guess I'm not entirely surprised to see it on there. It's one of the few games I would describe this year as like truly creative. It's creative.
Yeah, we were first exposed to the game at PAX, actually. I, truth be told, hadn't heard the game before, and I'm kind of a sucker for like gimmicky and cute things and anything.
Dice tower.
And it literally was the hole in the box. It was it was the hole in the box that intrigued me.
It's stuck.
and to me, it's absolutely crazy that people haven't really been doing this, but the box itself is part of the game. Isn't that cool? I love when games are kind of, what do you call, like, you described it as like chess, right?
It was
like,
kind of, yeah.
There's some kind of...
Very abstract.
Abstract, it's like the strategy to it, but it's also that you can approach it in many different ways. It's not like a very clear strategy. I don't love it when games that you have a specific person or faction and it's very clear what the strategy should be. I don't love when it's too prescribed that way, when it encourages you to only go one direction. I like it when it's a bit more vague and you can have your own spin on it and you can approach it differently. And then every game, even with the exact same players, with the exact same opponent you're playing with, that every game still feels different. Yeah. And this really brought that. But the game is very simple, but allows for quite a bit of complexity, which is a huge theme in games that I love.
And there's tons of variety too. Like, she didn't mention this, but each of these characters are in the game and you can use a different one. And, you know, like
so
it was
variety.
Tons of variety. And like Kim was saying, it's not one of those games where every game is going to feel the same. And that's primarily based on the fact that you're playing with an opponent and the game is highly tactical. whatever your opponent does is going to completely change what you're going to have to do to respond. You know, do you go on the defense? Like come mid-game, when you come near the end and everybody's kind of gained all their victory points, or a big chunk of their victory points, there are times when it's sort of like chess, where it feels like you are on the back foot and you kind of have to defend. You're like, well, when do I get to attack? And that how sort of ramps up the tension. Like I find that Harrow County does a really good job of maintaining a really good tension level where neither side walks away feeling, or at any point during the game feels like they're just going to walk away with the victory. Like it always feels like really tight, like knife fight in a phone booth kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Even this last game we played, I want to say leading for most of the game, but every time Mike was blocking me from doing the thing I need to do, it felt like, oh my gosh, like he's gonna catch up. And it's not like a very clear victory. It's very clear this game has really done very well in adding a strategic element that's not very complex to learn or very hard to teach or understand. So the more you play it, the more complex the strategy can get, which is to me what I love.
And like this is one of those games where you can really tell that the designers put like just full passion into the game. Like where he had a lot of like, I could just picture him like late at night waking up with like, oh, I got this really cool idea. What if you could put these little possession tokens inside of the ears and like move them around and stuff. Like there's a lot of these like really neat ideas all sort of crammed into the game. And there are times it can feel a little disjointed, but as long as you keep at it and you keep playing it like any good tactical abstract strategy game, the more you put it into it, the more that game is going to give back to you. And I think Harrow County does a really good job of that. Especially
for a two-player game.
Yeah.
I think a lot of two-player games, the first play and then the 50th play feels very much the same. And it's kind of not a wash, but it's very hard to justify having the game. Especially two-player games, often you're playing the same person. Or you might have a really good friend, or you might have a partner that you live with, roommate, whatever, that you play the game with all the time. So you want every game to kind of feel a little bit fresher. And you want to, after one game, you want to be thinking like, oh, I wish I did that, to play it again. You want to be drawn back to the game, and this really does that very well.
And at my number 8, we have Loot. In Loot, players control a horde of Vikings raiding the mainland, capturing buildings, stealing the Englishman's cute little sheep, and just racking up as much riches as possible while getting in your opponent's way at every turn till you are crowned the Jarl of the Vikings. We, of course, did a full review of this game, actually really recently. It's the last video we did, so if you want a more detailed analysis of the game, definitely check that out. But needless to say, we both loved it.
Excuse me, speak for yourself.
This is on our list. I know it'll be on our list. It's
spoiler alert, it is. Yeah. It is higher on my list.
Well, it's just a really fun game that I think we only played exclusively at 2 players. I've tried it at multiple players. I think 2 players is best. It is one of those like games where the more you put in, the more you get out. Where you can be really mean. I like to be mean, but you don't have to be mean. You don't have to play the
I don't like mean plays. I am not a mean player. I don't like playing with mean players. And still, even though there are times where he was mean, this game's still fantastic.
Yeah, it's really tactical.
Highly recommend.
Like deciding like, oh, should I use my Viking powers that allow me to make a double move? Oh, should I use that? Or no, I should do the one that lets me, do this other power. It's just there's a lot of really cool, interesting decisions in what amounts to an incredibly light, and I say this in a good way, a light and approachable game.
Yes, I would say this is the kind of game that a lot of our friends aren't big board gamers, right? So very often if we're going to like a board game cafe for like just a couple hours, something, I think it's the kind of game that you get pulled out, they play once,
you could learn
and then keep thinking about it, and for sure buy the game later that night.
Yeah.
This is that kind of game that I'm pretty confident that a lot of our friends would buy the game after they try it because it's that good.
100%.
And that short and easy. It's a game I confidently can teach to kids, and they might appreciate it.
They'll lose.
Well, I think it's like a 14-year-old. Not really.
Okay. It's not. I guess as a teenager.
That's a kid. They're much older. Much older than them, so they're a kid.
So if you want a more detailed analysis, definitely check out our review. Yes. Well, that's all we need to say about Loot. You should go out and get it. I think it's pretty cheap too.
And in my number 8 position, we have Seti.
In Seti, you lead a scientific institution tasked with searching for traces of life beyond Earth. You'll explore nearby planets and their moons by launching probes from Earth while taking advantage of ever-shifting planetary positions, decide whether to land on their surface and collect valuable samples, or stay in orbit for a broader survey.
Seti is one of those games that genuinely I didn't think I would like that much. Once we played it a couple times, and I really understood how the entire game worked and all the different strategies I could employ, I really enjoyed the game. And I know you and one of our friends didn't really love them, but I really like the alien features as well. I think it really adds dimension to the game.
It does.
Though, of course, I'm not sure if I believe in aliens and all that kind of stuff. Don't come at me. And it's so interesting, the different bonuses you get with it and also how you build it out. So as you build it out, every time you do a specific action, there are more subsidiary actions that you can do along with that main action. And it's really cool to see how everyone practices different things and the strategy everyone goes about for a specific stuff. And because that could be related to their secret private objective. And then there's also a component where you're building out your income and it's just so well organized. And again, the theme is really interestingly done. Don't think it's the most accurate representation, but it's a really fun play.
Yeah, it's a really good game. It's on my list as well. It's just, I really enjoyed it. It was one of those games where every game that we've played thus far has felt very different. And even beyond just the initial oh, it's this alien this time. There's just the actions that you perform. It never feels like I'm being scripted. It never feels like I'm being pushed down a very specific path. Like I tend to feel in a lot of these sort of Euro games. And in this game, it feels tense and it feels interesting. And in essence, the game just comes down to its really, really exquisite card play. Like the card play in this game is very good. And what I like more about this game than something like Terraforming Mars, not that one replaces the other, like some people may suggest, is that
different games.
They are. Is that I am more invested in what's happening on the boards than I am in Terraforming Mars. For whatever reason, I'm just a lot more interested in okay, I'm going to go to this planet now, and I love the way the movement works when you're moving around your rovers or your satellites. The initial movement where you put them on this dial that spins. Because what's cool is that, and this is the way in which it sort of offhandedly makes you interact with other players. Is that I could spend the movement points to go further out into the system. Or I could just wait for other players to move me by moving the dial. And that's a really cool way of engaging with the game. Yeah. I appreciate it.
You're almost always keeping an eye out of where somebody else is. Because that's how you get indication of when they're going to turn the whole planet or when they're going to get additional technologies. So it's very subtle, but you're constantly watching what everyone else is doing as well. And it's one of those games as well where it's kind of a slow build. The first round and two feel like they take forever just because you don't have much income.
You're definitely building up your income in the first couple stages.
And then by round 3, 4, you're oh, there's so much more I want to do, and there's not enough turns left to do them. And so this game always ends with you wanting more.
It's a very tight game.
Exactly. It ends up feeling very tight, and it ends up feeling that you're never quite fully satisfied with how the game ended, so it keeps leaving you wanting more.
Yeah, it's the same thing with the resources too. Everything you're scraping and crawling. Yeah, you really need everything, and nothing can go to waste. And that sort of exercise in efficiency in a game like Seti is just something that I don't want to experience all the time, but it's definitely something that's enjoyable for this game. And at my number 7, I have Harmonies. Harmonies is an abstract strategy game that sees players drafting a set of 3 discs at the start of the turn, which they use to place on their board to complete various patterns required by animal cards they've drafted. This is another one of those games that we have done a full review on, so if you want to check out more information, check that review out. This is just a great abstract game. I am not a big abstract fan, but this one is hit home for me. Whenever I play this game, it feels like I'm being incredibly challenged. And I just really appreciate that. And the one thing is what's funny is that you don't really have to approach this game with your full brain just blasting at all cylinders. You can go into it, treating it a bit lighter than you typically would. And I like that. I like when a game provides you different ways to engage with it.
I don't know if you're seeing this happen in this video, but I find that in 2024, we both really enjoyed a lot of games that were not typically our type of game.
I feel like there's a bunch of, there's more on this list that are not the type of games that I like.
And same for me.
But, I might not be a light game player. There's a lot of content creators that you can tell they exclusively like light games. I kind of like heavier games, but there's a lot of light games on this list, and Harmonies is one of those. I'm okay with light games provided they're providing me a lot of options on my turn. A lot of I don't want to feel at any given turn like my turn is scripted or that I have had agency stripped from me and it's basically just the designer saying, well, you got to do this because this gets you most points. It shouldn't be obvious. And Harmonies is almost never obvious.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, Harmonies is higher on my list as well. I am confused. I'm a confused person. I like to think I'm not a light game person, but I think I'm a light game person. But I really think I'm just a lazy person. So I want games that are super simple to teach, super simple to set up.
Yeah.
Not that I ever teach or set up games. But in theory, cleaning up is also a pain. So I like when it's easy to clean up. So I like games that are light, but deceptively light.
Yeah.
So they come across as, oh, such a simple game, just taking cards and taking tiles, put on your player board, but allow for a lot of layers of strategy. Because truthfully, I need the brain squeezing type game where I need to be like, scratching my head and like really like engrossed in the game. I like when games take up my full attention.
So Harmonies is a fantastic game. Definitely check it out, which you probably
Definitely
have already. Yeah, or buy it. Yeah. You probably already have. It's pretty much, I'm not going to say it's a classic, but it's a great game.
It's becoming a classic for us. It's just such an easy game to pull out and to teach, and still allows for people to get really absorbed into the game. And in number 7, I have Ironwood.
Ironwood is a fun, fast-paced area control game that sees one player playing as the wood folk, prancing around the trees and stealing resources, and the other player taking on the role of the Iron Lads, destroying everything and just lumbering around the board. Each attempt to fulfill their own objectives while messing up the plans of their opponent through constant battles and card shenanigans.
Ironwood was the first game that I have ever come across that is a war game, technically, that I really enjoyed the war part of it. So it's like all games I like, really simple and really complex at the same time.
Not complex, it has depth.
Exactly. It has depth, it allows for a lot of complexity. The more you play it, the better you get at it, the more it sinks into your dreams and the more you crave to play that game. It's a really weird game for me because like it's not the kind of game I ever thought I would want to play again. Like I have to try because he likes it, and then I try to like, oh damn, I want to play it again. Not because he was playing it, because I want to play a game. You always feel it's a little unfair on your side, no matter which side you choose. It's always a little unfair, and I think that's how it's well balanced. That you always feel it's a little unfair.
It's like the game maintains a really good tension. Is that you always kind of feel
that's the right
like
word for it.
You always kind of feel like you're on the back foot. You always feel as though it's your opponent that's like one turn away from winning. But what's funny is that they always feel like you're one turn away from winning.
Yeah.
Which is a really cool feeling. And the game is just it's another one of those like really creative games that just like I'm really pleased with the amount of asymmetrical 2-player games that seem to be coming out
this year.
That are just, they go beyond the typical like, lighter card games and stuff like that you see with a lot of 2-player games. This one's cool. It's cool. It's a war game, but it's very light. It's very approachable. All the cards, there's so many different cards, and each one is like pretty unique, and it's sort of like it has a lot of flavor too that coincides with the faction that you're playing. Like when you play the forest people, you can do various like forest shenanigans, like set up decoys and stuff like that. It's a really well done game, and I really appreciate it. Oh, and of course, there's another one of those games we did a review of. So if you wanted a more detailed description of the game and like our thoughts on it, definitely check out the review.
Yeah, and I think for both of us as well, sometimes it does surprise us. Like upon the first month or 2 months of playing the game a lot of times, you can have one opinion about it. Yeah. But then it really is something where months down the line, you're still thinking about this game. You still crave
That's why it ends up on the list.
That's why it sometimes it's hard when something's fresh in your mind. It's hard to say if it's truly in that place in the list or if it's just because of recency bias.
Yeah.
It's on the list. But it's one of the games as well that, again, I don't like war games, and so I'm surprised at how much I still enjoy playing this game today.
Yeah, it's a great game.
Oh, and also the other part that I think is really cool is a lot of short games, they don't often allow you to have any actions that are, what do you call like permanent effects or like lasting effects.
Yeah.
So it will impact your next turn. And I think that makes the game feel a lot more complex than a lot of other short games.
And my number 6 is Seti, which of course has already been discussed. Yeah, it's a brilliant game. I really love it, and I'm looking forward to playing it a lot more in the future. We did our keep or trash or treasure video, and this is a game that we both decided that we're going to treasure. We're going to hold on to and see if it gets more interesting the more we play, because every play that we've played so far, I'm getting more invested, and I'm liking it more and more. So I'm curious.
So we'll visit in 5 years and see if we still play as often as we do now.
Years. Yeah, it's a great game.
And then number 6 for me, I have Black Forest. Not the cake,
In Black Forest, you expand your domain with new buildings and livestock, and travel from village to village to enlist the aid of specialists and collect resources to build the best damn domain possible.
Black Forest is one of the most interesting and different games that we play in 2024 that I fell in love with upon first play. I was obsessed with, I don't know the right word for it, but the little rotation thing.
Yeah, the game employs a sort of, you'll see this if you've ever played Glass Road, it's like a resource wheel where when you increase the resource here, it decreases the resource over here. And that's the game. That is really the game.
It's such a cool mechanism.
Yeah. The worker placement spots, they're fine. Like they're decent. They're nothing you haven't seen before for the most part. The main thrust of the game is the way in which you're manipulating your resources.
Exactly. And of course, I love this kind of stuff. I love the kind of stuff where it's like a secret strategy or a lot of you control how your board goes. And that's really a lot of the game. And you score victory points and all that kind of stuff based upon how well your little engine works. And that's probably why I love this game so much, is that it's such an interesting way of managing everything. Unlike a lot of the other games I mentioned today, it's one of those games where you do put your head down, you focus very much on what you were doing. Sometimes you just love those games. Sometimes like you want to get a game that you can all out focus on and not talk to people, not look what everyone else is doing, and just focus on that kind of stuff. And it's so interesting and it gives you so many different areas to control and think about and manage that you're truly just fully sucked into just managing your own player board. And I love that about it.
It's definitely one of those games where the interaction isn't really great, and that's okay. A lot of Euro games have very low interaction. But if you're going to provide a game that has minimal to no interaction, then you best provide a game that's worth solving that puzzle, that's worth burying my nose into my board and kind of only paying attention to the crap that's affecting me. And I think this game does that really beautifully through the resource manipulation. It has this wonderful way of facilitating a certain amount of cleverness in the players. Like when you're playing and you manage to like manipulate your resources so that you get more of some resources and like you didn't even need the other resources, you just feel like you've done something really smart. Like, yeah, I did it. But then there are other times too when you don't utilize your resources properly, because this can swing both ways. When you don't use the resources properly, or you kind of overpay for something, or you end up losing some resources because like you gain some here, but you don't need those ones anymore, then you feel dumb.
Yeah. And the end of game scoring thing too is very much you control how you have to score in the game. And so I love it when it's fully like on you. There's no luck involved. It's just you and your control of how you manage everything. And it's so nice when you fall in love upon first play. And every time following that, it's never disappointed.
And at number 5, we have yet another light game on my list, Castle Combo. In Castle Combo, players draft cards to build a 3x3 tableau to trigger instant effects and endgame bonuses, all to get the most victory points by the end of the game. Castle Combo is a super light, super easy to play game that, despite the fact that I could teach this probably in like a minute, maybe 2 minutes.
So you don't like light games.
I know, but I can't stop playing this damn thing on Board Game Arena. I just can't stop playing the damn game. I don't know, hundreds of games? I don't know. But I love playing it. Like when I have a little tiny bit of time, like 5 minutes, you usually play it less than that, at least online. I enjoy it. I enjoy it so much. I find there's just so much. There is more depth than there deserves to be for such a light and easy to play game. Like, and the games, they even though that I at this point know every card in the deck and I know what's possible, it still never feels like I'm going for the same strategy. It's just it's just a really well done game.
Yeah, I love that. We both like more intense, more strategic type games. But I love that there are more and more games now that give you that kind of same satisfaction at a much shorter time frame. And it allows as well for like, when we have friends come over, they might friends have kids and stuff. So they might not be able to come for 6 hours one day, but they can come for 2 or 3 hours. Yeah. And they don't want to just play one game. They want to play a couple games. So we have time for one serious game and a bunch of these lighter games that feel like they really pack a punch.
Yeah, and it's just like, it's just one of those games too that incentivize you to pay really close attention to what your opponent is doing. Because if you know they need a specific card because they're enacting, a certain strategy that you're familiar with. Again, this is somebody who's played a lot, so like you may not get this type of interaction when you first start playing. You're just going to be drafting the cards that you want to draft. But there are moments in which you could sort of manipulate it so that it's not necessarily a hate draft because you are getting something you want, but you
hate draft.
Yeah, I do hate draft, but not much so much. Well, no, I definitely do hate draft in this game too. There's lots of opportunities to interact in a non-direct way with your opponent if you're paying really close attention and if you played the game a lot. Yeah, I really love this one, and this is another one of those games like I want to get a physical copy of, but it just doesn't seem to be sold anywhere. So if you find it, definitely get it because I know it's also really cheap. So check it out. And my number 4 is Creature Caravan. In Creature Caravan, players build a card tableau of creatures while traveling through a dangerous land filled with zombies and hazards. Players take turns simultaneously placing dice on actions on their cards, moving their caravan on the map, and playing new creature cards who join the caravan as it races across the land. Overall, there is just such a wonderfully strong thematic link to this game that just keeps me coming back every single time. I don't know how to explain it, but it almost feels like an exploration game. But instead of exploring like places, you're exploring people, you know? Like you have this little caravan and it generally feels like you're going across this map and I'm like genuinely excited to turn up this giant deck of cards to see like who's going to appear.
Creatures.
Yeah, the creatures. Who's going to appear in my caravan next? Who do I want my caravan next? And like, oh, it's that Cyclops. I can't wait to get him back. Like, I don't know. It just seems... The game just screams charming. I love it. I want to play it every day. Again, this is another one of those games that is like pretty goddamn light. Like it's pretty light. I can explain this game so easily, but the game just intrigues me. Every time I play it, it is intriguing. It is charming. I'm fully engaged on my turn. Just even though it is multiplayer solitaire, you know, you don't interact with other people. But in here, I don't mind because it also means that I can put this out for like, if you have the expansion, 6 players, and it's going to play in the exact same amount of time.
We introduce a couple friends to it. And when they're playing it and we're playing it, it's so entertaining for me to watch them struggle as they like go through cards and like they're sorting out their turn, setting with their dice and everything. It's so entertaining. And it's not super complicated or complex by any means because you're really just looking for cards that are similar to yours and the right combo of things to get. But as you're building this engine, it's really fun. It's more fun than I expected from such a simple game, which is the part I think why it's so high on your list as well, is that we didn't have high expectations for it, but it just was so fun to play.
Yeah, and all the various creatures, they add various powers to your caravan so that every time you play through, it feels different. It's not just, you know, like you're going to have different abilities and different things that you can do throughout the game. It's not going to feel like the previous game you played, despite the fact that you are moving around, which is essentially amounts to pretty much the same map.
Yeah, it's the same game, but it feels so different just because like every time it's a luck of the draw, right? You're dealt different cards, and your luck is different too, and how you go through stuff. And what I do, like the card deck is really big, and so like even if you're looking for the same family of cards, each individual like role in that family has different abilities on that card, so it is still very unique.
Yeah, even the set collection of this game just felt right. Like it didn't feel like it broke the theme of the game. And it never got to that point in a lot of other Euro games, you know, when you're collecting like sets of whatever, at some point you stop caring what the set is and you're just kind of looking, okay, I need 4 red cards. Oh, I need 5 blue cards. Here I was like, oh yeah, okay, I need more monster cards. I need more of this type of card because I want to expand my caravan of those types of creatures. It hasn't lost its thematic touch, but this is one of those games that I think will need expansions. I think it will need expansions because the more you're going to play, the more you're going to see the same cards, and I think it's going to lose that element of charm if you keep saying the same thing over and over again. And this is also partially because we play it too much.
I don't know if I agree about needing expansions. I can definitely understand the whole seeing the same cards, and I think it's the kind of game where even if you play it like once a week, that you can still get by for a long time not needing new cards because it's a lot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just that we played it quite a bit, but yeah, we played it quite a bit for a very good reason. That's very well deserving on this list.
And then number 4 for me is something we've already discussed: Loot. Yeah, Loot is a fantastic game. It's become one of our go-to coffee table games this year. Yeah, this year was strange. We normally are not big coffee table gamers, but we had a lot of games that, again, not wider, but like
less table space.
Exactly.
Loot takes up very little table space, but it offers you a lot of game, which is why it's on this list and why it's higher on her list than mine, but it's just an awesome game in general.
Yeah, and it's also a little shorter. It's not like a super long game, so... Yeah.
Definitely check it out.
Absolutely.
And at number 3, really, the next 3 games are almost interchangeable. I love all of them somewhat equally, but number 3 is Arcs. Arcs is a sci-fi strategy game where players play cards to perform actions using a trick-taking mechanic, all to exert their dominance through the galaxy, gather resources, and engage in a little diplomatic intrigue. Yeah, I know how divisive this game has become, where people seem to be in the camp where they really hate it or they really love it. I really do like this game. It definitely feels incredibly creative, and while I completely, it's one of those games where if a person were to say like, I hate this game, I would just be like, I understand. I wouldn't even disagree with how much they hate the game, because I get it. Yeah, she doesn't like it, but I like it. I like that it is so in your face confrontational. I like that it is incredibly creative. I like how much tension there is in this game. I like how mean you can be. Like, you can put other people in prisons. You can destroy their cities. You can raid things. You can destroy their friggin' ships. Like, you do so many mean things to other players. And to me, that is enjoyable. That's just my jam. That's what I enjoy. I think this game employs a lot of clever mechanisms I love, even though I despise trick-taking games. I think the way it's able to employ trick-taking and put it into a larger framework is really fascinating to me. And yeah, there are a lot of moments where you're going to feel like you're out behind the 8 ball in terms of luck, but even then, I'm just having fun. I don't know if it's a balanced game. It at times feels a little messy, but I don't care. I'm having fun the entire time.
In my defense, I do really like the trick-taking part. And like where, the person, you can place specific cards to decide what different items score that round. I like the part about you put your people on these cards on the side, and basically if you have control of that card, you can take it. Yeah. I like a lot of components of this game. But yes, the meanness, the always invading my space, always taking my trips and people. Yeah. It's very frustrating for me. And like I mentioned a few times in this video, I don't like the war games. I don't like the stuff where people are just constantly in my space and I can't just do the thing I want to do. And I get that this is a whole category of games that people love. It's just, I can appreciate the game. I can enjoy playing it occasionally, but I get very frustrated when some people are mean. And therefore I don't love the game as much.
Yeah, it's not one of those games where you can have your own little objective and do your own little thing. At some point, somebody's coming knocking at your door and they're going to...
No, it's just you.
They're gonna, if they want to win, they're going to start stealing your shit. That's just the way Arcs is. Yeah, it's a great game. Just be... if you're on the fence about it, just keep in mind that you need a very specific audience. This isn't going to be everybody's cup of tea. But for me, it feels like one of those games that is tailor-made for my personal tastes. And for that's why it's number 3. I love it. Great game, Arcs.
My number 3 is Creature Caravan, which Mike already gushed all about. I think you guys have a good understanding of what the game is. Yeah. It's a really simple game, really great. Go get it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's an amazing game. I love it. It's just, I didn't put it on the tier list because I didn't play it at the time, but this is an easy-ass game. It's an easy-ass game. I love it.
Oh, wow.
It's an S-tier game. It's great. Check it out. And at number 2 is the best reimplementation. Yes, maybe even better than the Dune reimplementation, Andromeda's Edge.
So it's mine. It's number 2 for me as well.
Yeah, I figured it would be higher for your list. I actually thought it would be number 1, but now I know which number 1 is. Andromeda's Edge. In Andromeda's Edge, you'll be building a new civilization by gathering resources, claiming moons, acquiring modules to add to your station, populating planets, all to gain supremacy in the galaxy. Yeah, the game's done a really great job sort of revamping and revitalizing a lot of the stuff that I already loved in Dwellings. Like the major selling point for Dwellings, and the thing that I love to see replicated in other games, is that refresh action. In what is typically an incredibly boring procedural crap that you have to do in some games, where you would kind of feel like you're missing a turn because it's just refreshing shit.
Just take your stuff.
Take your stuff.
Like get resources from
here, though. You're putting them onto these technologies which build out even more interestingly than Dwellings, a bit more advanced than Dwellings, but more engaging for me, and why I think I like it more.
I love how it's improved on Dwellings and the mechanism aspect, but I think the theme implementation of it is very strongly geared to people who love sinking their teeth deep into a game and really diving deep into it and staying on the table playing for hours. It allows for a lot more complex strategy, which is fantastic, but not something I would bring up for lighter gamers.
No, it's not that long. It's not much longer of a game. but it definitely does feel like there's a lot more moving parts.
Yeah.
Just in the way things generally play out and the way things have been improved. That's why I think in some respect there's room for both in our collection.
Yeah.
But yeah, Andromeda's Edge is just a brilliant game, and I was really pleased with it. I love everything about it. I love even the way the new combat system, the way they have the targeting mechanic. I think that's a great improvement over Dwellings, where it still employs a certain element of luck, because I think in combat you do need an element of luck. It's not tense or interesting if you go into combat knowing 100% that you're going to win. So even if you are completely outnumbering your opponent, the odds are much better now that you have the targeting system, which allows you to get better rolls essentially if you have more units than your opponent. But at the same time, it's still not a guarantee. And that is what makes it more exciting. That's what makes combat exciting.
I even love the component for technology. So in Dwellings, you only can really pick the face-up card that's available there. Whereas in Andromeda's Edge, you can pick based off like 4 open face tiles, and then they range in cost and value, versus Dwellings just a stack. So whatever comes off the cost is what you have to pay. Basically, there's no choice there. So I really feel that this game allows for so many like really calculated moves, and based upon like what your opponents are doing, you can see that what they're going for, what they can afford as well. And it's a fantastic game.
And it's just like it takes the customization that occurs in Dwellings in regards to like the different factions. You have the somewhat asymmetrical play, and it just like amps it up to 11 by not only giving you a variety of different factions that you can choose at the start of the game, but also you get to build your own faction as the game progresses, not just through the upgrades off to the sideboard that you do during a refresh action, but also the ships that you have. Your ships become completely different than everybody else's ships, and they're completely randomized at the start of every game, and it's really cool. It's just really, really cool.
Yeah, all of the aspects of Dwellings, but with so many more options and choices now that the whole game is kind of wild. It's a very immersive experience. Like it's huge, which is why we have so high now on both our lists. And for the first time ever, like same positions.
Crossover.
Yeah.
And number 1, the best game of 2024, everybody's favorite game. Nobody's talking about it, but that's because they're stupid and they don't know any better. It's a Gest of Robin Hood. The Gest of Robin Hood. The Gest of Robin Hood is a coin game where the sheriff chases Robin Hood across Nottingham as Robin Hood organizes peasant revolts and attempts to steal supplies from the sheriff's caravan. This is easily one of the most approachable GMT games you will ever find, and if you've ever sort of considered, dipping your toes into the coin series, this is where you start. The coin series is not something that typically interests me, but this game I found very approachable and really interesting, and the asymmetric play just absolutely fascinating. I don't think you're gonna like it. I don't think you'll bother introducing it. I just play online. It's just, I have a lot of fun with it. Basically, you have the sheriff who gets to do his own little cool things. Like he has his little caravans that he wants to bring back to Nottingham. And the neat thing is that because Robin Hood is trying to hijack those caravans, you can sort of like play these like little mini mind games where you're leaving one thing undefended. So Robin Hood will try to steal it because he thinks it's going to be a high coin value caravan, but in actuality, there's like, boom, it's a surprise, and a bunch of guards jump out. It's just like there's a lot of thematic elements of the game that are just a lot of fun, and the card play, like any good coin game, the card play is incredibly engaging. It's really intuitive. The game has a shit ton of depth, despite the fact that I could probably explain this pretty easily. I absolutely love this game. I didn't say that the top 3 is almost interchangeable, but I really do think this is my favorite game of the year. I love it so much, and if I redid my top 100 games, I think this would end up on there. Yeah, I'm digging the hell out of it. So yeah, like I've said,
it's crazy.
Yeah, if you've ever been interested in the coin series, definitely check this one out. It is a great game. I wish more people talked about it, but it is brilliant.
And my top game and top pick for 2024 has to go to Spectral.
In Spectral, players control treasure hunters, moving around the haunted manor to deduce and uncover treasure using secretly revealed clues, while also doing their best to avoid demonic curses. But uncovering that treasure isn't enough. Treasure hunters need to make sure they have enough men in that area to take that treasure from other players once the game ends.
Spectral is, I would say, a very simple deduction game, but it is the most clever and crazy game that you won't realize what hit you till the game ends.
It's crazy. I know it's crazy.
You won't realize every time I played this, especially with new people, including yourself.
Yeah.
No one realized till the scoring time how they misplayed the game.
Yeah,
I am still undefeated in this game.
You don't have perfect information in this game. There is some element of deduction, and that is what makes it fun. But beyond that, it's also the fact that it's more than just a deduction puzzle. It's not just a logic puzzle. It's not just like the search for Planet X. There's a game there, which is nice. Which I think why I like this game a lot more than I like just traditional deduction games.
I really am huge in deduction games. I love it. I think about my friends. So when I think about great games, I love board games for the social aspect. The same reason I don't play them online, I don't play solo games. I love playing games as a way to connect with my friends and Mike and family in an unplugged fashion. Like we're just focused on the thing we have in front of us here. And I get a lot of them, and those games are like, I'm not super, they don't have high play interactions, a lot of communication going on, but something about just bonding over the game in this environment that I love. And Spectral, I think, is a game that genuinely anybody can play.
Yeah.
And there is a book, writing, drawing element to it, which I think is so much more engaging as well than just playing a board game.
What do you mean, like when you'd write your clues out?
Exactly.
I guess it's drawing.
Because you can't half-heartedly play it. You have to actually write the clues, and you're actually fully thinking about
you are engaged.
Where all the curses are, when the treasure is.
And you are paying attention to what other people are doing, which is also what I like. Typically in these deduction games, you're somewhat incentivized to pay attention to what other people do, but not really.
So many games, there is an aspect of focus, looking at what someone else is doing. But in this game in particular, you have to be careful what you're actually looking for, because if you're looking, specifically in one section, people notice that you look in a section, they know that you know something, and they think they might be missing something.
That's where you can get a mind game, so you can be like, you know that I know, but you think that I know. And
yeah, like what you think and what you know is different. And the one layer that I think really tips this game over the edge of really interestingly done is the way you score, the way you get the treasures. So each section has treasures. They're in perfect multiples of, I think, 3. So it can be divided into 3 or 4 players. And it's not the number of men you have on each side. It's the number of sides you have that control that area, that also aren't removed due to the curses in proximity. So there's a lot of little things to think about, to keep in mind, and twists. And I love playing this game every single time. And I want everyone that plays games with us to try it. So that's why it had to be my number 1 pick of 2024.
Yeah, I was really going. Another one of those games where it's not on my list, but if I had to make like a top 15, it would definitely be on there. And I think that wraps it up. I think this has been a very good year. And what surprised me the most is that it has been a year of heavy games. It's been a year of light games. It's got some party games in there. There's just so many different games that I have enjoyed this year that I typically don't enjoy. Like I don't really like a lot of coin games. A coin game ended up being my number 1. I don't really like light games. I think 3 or 4 of the games on this list are pretty light. That's cool. That's cool.
It's a surprising year for both of us.
Yeah.
And I think I'm looking forward to what's more to come in 2025. And I think it also opened up our perspective on games too, right? Like if there are more games now that, let's say I traditionally didn't like board games, but I'm enjoying some now that maybe we'll try more of the types of games I didn't think I would like before, and I'm open to be surprised.
So let this top 10 list be your guide to make sure that you set your own New Year's resolution for next year, for 2025, to try games that maybe that you don't typically enjoy, because you never know. It's always good to just expand your wheelhouse and try new things.
I recommend go visit your local board game cafe, or go visit a friend that has some of these games and try them.
Yeah. Always try before you buy. Be smart with your money. Don't buy all of the games that we list off. You'll just waste your money. You know what you like. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in the next year.
Happy New Year, everybody. Bye.